Why chaos is the default state of the modern mind. Most people experience their inner life as chaotic, not because they lack intelligence or effort, but because they are running a system that was never designed to handle the volume of stimulation, responsibility, and choice that modern life demands. Patanjali understood this long before smartphones, social media, and information overload, which is why the Yoga Sutras do not begin with concentration or meditation, but with a complete framework for stabilizing human behavior, energy, and attention from the ground up. When people try to fix their focus today, they usually start at the wrong level. They attempt to meditate without addressing their habits, control their thoughts without regulating their energy, or demand discipline from a system that is internally fragmented. Patanjali's genius was to recognize that focus is not a single skill, but an emergent property of a well-ordered life. The 8 limbs of yoga are not spiritual rituals, they are sequential layers of an operating system that converts chaos into coherence. This is why discipline fails when treated as a personality trait or a moral achievement. Discipline is systemic. If the lower layers are unstable, higher-level focus cannot be sustained. Patanjali's system works because it starts where chaos actually begins, in behavior, environment, body, and breath, long before the mind is asked to concentrate. Yama, stabilizing your external behavior. The first limb, yama, is often misunderstood as a set of moral rules, but in practical terms, it functions as behavioral hygiene. Patanjali recognized that chaotic external behavior produces chaotic internal states. If your actions are driven by aggression, dishonesty, excess, or constant reactivity, your nervous system never settles, making sustained focus impossible. In modern life, yama translates to reducing behaviors that fragment attention and increase inner conflict. This includes chronic overstimulation, impulsive consumption, and reactive communication. For example, if you habitually check your phone during conversations or multitask while working, you are training your mind to remain divided. Yama asks for restraint not to impose morality, but to create consistency between intention and action. When behavior becomes predictable and aligned, the mind stops expending energy on damage control. Guilt decreases, mental noise softens, and attention begins to stabilize naturally. Discipline at this level is not about doing more, but about doing fewer things that pull you apart. Niyama, building internal order. If yama stabilizes your external world, niyama organizes your internal environment. This limb addresses how you relate to effort, discomfort, progress, and self-regulation. Patanjali understood that without internal order, discipline collapses into cycles of motivation and burnout. Niyama includes practices that modern psychology would recognize as self-regulation, such as maintaining cleanliness of mind, cultivating contentment, applying effort without obsession, and reflecting regularly. In modern terms, this means creating routines that support mental clarity rather than constantly reacting to mood. For example, contentment in niyama does not mean complacency. It means reducing the constant sense of insufficiency that drives overwork and distraction. When you stop chasing emotional completion through productivity, effort becomes steadier. Discipline becomes something you practice daily, not something you summon during crises. This internal order allows the mind to rest even while working, which is essential for sustainable focus. Asana, training the body to support focus. Patanjali places asana, physical posture, before breath and attention for a reason. The body is not separate from discipline. It is the foundation that either supports or sabotages it. A restless body produces a restless mind. An exhausted body cannot sustain attention. In modern life, asana is not about flexibility or fitness aesthetics, but about training the body to sit, stand, and move without constant discomfort. This includes posture, movement breaks, sleep hygiene, and physical strength. When the body is neglected, the mind compensates through restlessness and distraction. Discipline becomes far easier when the body is stable. You can sit longer, think more clearly, and resist impulses more effectively, not because of willpower, but because the system is no longer fighting itself. Pranayama, regulating energy and emotion. The fourth limb, pranayama, addresses breath and energy regulation. Patanjali understood that attention cannot be controlled when energy is erratic. In modern life, this appears as anxiety, overstimulation, and chronic stress, which destroy focus at the physiological level. Pranayama trains you to influence the nervous system directly through breathing patterns. When breath slows and deepens, mental agitation decreases. This is not spiritual theory, it is biology. A regulated nervous system is a prerequisite for discipline. In practical terms, this means using breath intentionally during transitions, stress, and effort. Before deep work, before difficult conversations, before sleep, breath becomes the reset mechanism that restores order to the system. Why most people never reach focus? Most people try to jump directly to concentration and meditation while ignoring behavior, body, and breath. Patanjali's system shows why this fails. Focus is not imposed, it emerges. When the lower layers are aligned, the mind naturally becomes steady. This first half of the 8 limbs builds the infrastructure of discipline. Without it, chaos collapses under pressure. With it, chaos begins to settle. Pratyahara, withdrawing from noise without escaping life. Once behavior, body, and breath are stabilized, Patanjali introduces pratyahara, a step that is often misunderstood as sensory withdrawal in a literal sense. In reality, pratyahara is not about escaping the world, but about reclaiming agency over where attention flows. It is the moment discipline shifts from managing inputs to regulating perception itself. In modern life, this is the most neglected skill of all. Most people do not choose what they pay attention to. Attention is hijacked continuously by notifications, algorithms, deadlines, and emotional triggers. The result is not just distraction, but a constant feeling of being mentally invaded. Pratyahara teaches that focus is impossible when the senses are in control, and discipline begins only when perception is trained to disengage on command. This does not mean eliminating stimulation altogether, but creating deliberate boundaries. For example, working with notifications silenced, eating without screens, or spending periods of the day without reactive consumption. These practices train the mind to decouple sensation from compulsion. You see something, but you do not immediately reach for it. You feel discomfort, but you do not escape it reflexively. This is where self-discipline quietly forms. When sensory input no longer dictates behavior, choice reappears. Pratyahara is not forceful restraint. It is the gradual weakening of automatic reactions. Over time, the mind learns that it does not need to respond to every stimulus, which creates the mental space required for sustained attention. Dharana, training attention like a muscle. With the senses regulated, Patanjali introduces dharana, the deliberate cultivation of attention on a single object. This is not deep meditation yet, it is structured mental training. Dharana teaches the mind how to stay, return, and remain engaged without wandering. In modern terms, dharana is the practice of single tasking in a world built for fragmentation. Most people believe they lack focus, but in reality, they have never trained it. Attention behaves like an untrained muscle. It fatigues quickly, wanders easily, and resists effort. Dharana is the gym where attention becomes strong. This training looks simple, but it is psychologically demanding. It might involve focusing on one task, one sentence, one breath, or one problem for a fixed period of time, while noticing every impulse to escape. Each time attention drifts and is gently returned, discipline strengthens. The goal is not perfection, but repetition. In work life, dharana translates to working in contained blocks with clearly defined objectives without allowing distraction to hijack the process. In learning, it means reading deeply instead of skimming endlessly. In relationships, it means listening fully without preparing responses or checking devices. Each of these acts trains the same capacity, sustained presence. Importantly, dharana is not about forcing focus through tension. Tension weakens attention. Patanjali emphasizes steadiness and ease, allowing attention to rest on its object rather than clench around it. Over time, focus becomes less effortful, not more intense. Why discipline feels hard at first. At this stage, many people encounter resistance and assume something is wrong. In truth, this discomfort reveals how untrained the mind has been. When attention is finally asked to stay, it exposes years of habitual avoidance. Restlessness, boredom, and agitation are not failures, they are signs that training has begun. Modern productivity culture often misinterprets this phase, pushing people to override discomfort with caffeine, pressure, or guilt. Patanjali's approach is different. He treats distraction as a condition to be understood, not an enemy to be defeated. Each return to focus is success. Each moment of noticing distraction is progress. This reframes discipline as a skill developed through patience rather than force. Dhyana, when focus becomes continuous. As dharana matures, Patanjali describes the natural transition into dhyana, a state of continuous attention. Unlike effortful concentration, dhyana is characterized by flow, absorption, and mental quiet. The distinction between observer and activity softens, and work begins to feel intrinsically engaging rather than draining. In modern language, dhyana is deep work, creative flow, or total immersion. It cannot be commanded, but it can be prepared for. When the lower limbs are respected and dharana is practiced consistently, dhyana arises naturally. This is why some people experience moments of profound focus effortlessly, while others struggle endlessly. The system beneath their attention differs. In professional life, dhyana allows for sustained creativity without burnout. Tasks feel meaningful without becoming emotionally consuming. Effort continues, but strain disappears. This is the state where discipline no longer feels like self-control, but like alignment. It is also where many people mistakenly stop. They assume this is the goal. But Patanjali's system continues because even deep focus can collapse if it becomes attached to identity or outcomes. Without pratyahara, dharana, and dhyana, discipline depends on mood and environment. With them, attention becomes resilient. You are no longer at the mercy of stimulation or emotional fluctuation. You can choose where your mind rests even when conditions are imperfect. This middle layer of the 8 limbs explains why quick productivity hacks fail. They attempt to manipulate output without training perception and attention. Patanjali's system works because it addresses the root. The mind does not need to be dominated. It needs to be trained. When discipline no longer feels like effort. Patanjali ends the 8 limbs not with greater control, but with samadhi, a state often misunderstood as mystical or inaccessible. In practical terms, samadhi represents the moment discipline stops feeling like restraint and starts feeling like alignment. The mind is no longer fighting itself, because attention, behavior, and intention are unified. This does not mean you are permanently focused or emotionally flat. It means that your actions arise naturally from clarity rather than compulsion. You do not need to argue with yourself to begin work. You do not need external pressure to maintain consistency. The energy that was once spent resisting distraction is now available for creation. In modern life, samadhi appears as an identity shift. You are no longer someone who tries to be disciplined. You are someone whose system supports focus by default. Work happens without emotional bargaining. Rest happens without guilt. Effort feels clean, not heavy. This is why Patanjali places samadhi last. It cannot be forced. If earlier limbs are ignored, attempts at deep absorption become fragile, collapsing under stress or temptation. But when behavior, energy, attention, and perception are aligned, samadhi emerges as a stable baseline rather than a rare peak experience. Why identity is the final battleground of discipline. Most people struggle with discipline because they frame it as a personality defect. They believe they lack motivation, willpower, or character. Patanjali's system reveals a deeper truth. Identity follows practice. Who you believe you are is shaped by how your mind has been trained to operate. When the mind is fragmented, identity becomes unstable. You want one thing in the morning and another in the evening. You make promises and break them. This erodes self-trust. Discipline collapses not because effort is insufficient, but because identity is divided. Samadhi resolves this fragmentation. When attention is stable, behavior aligned, and perception regulated, inner conflict diminishes. You no longer experience discipline as self-oppression, but as self-consistency. Action flows from clarity rather than coercion. In modern work life, this explains why some people remain calm under pressure while others burn out. The difference is not workload, but internal alignment. When identity is rooted in attention rather than outcomes, effort becomes sustainable. How the 8 limbs function as a single system. Patanjali never intended the 8 limbs to be practiced in isolation. They function like layers of an operating system, each supporting the next. When one layer is neglected, instability spreads upward. Yama and niyama regulate behavior and internal attitude, reducing friction and contradiction. Asana stabilizes the body, allowing the mind to remain present. Pranayama regulates energy, preventing emotional volatility. Pratyahara reclaims attention from external noise. Dharana trains focus deliberately. Jhana deepens focus into continuity. Samadhi integrates identity and action. Together, they transform discipline from an act of force into a state of coherence. This is why modern attempts to hack productivity often fail. They treat discipline as a shortcut rather than a system. Applying the full system to modern life. In work, it means designing routines that respect energy cycles, minimizing distraction, and training attention deliberately. In relationships, it means listening fully, responding rather than reacting, and maintaining boundaries that protect mental clarity. In personal habits, it means addressing the root causes of inconsistency rather than relying on motivation. If you cannot focus, the solution is not harsher discipline, but better structure. If you procrastinate, the issue is not laziness, but unregulated discomfort. If you burn out, the problem is not ambition, but attachment and misaligned effort. Patanjali's system teaches that discipline fails when it is treated as punishment. It succeeds when it is treated as training. Why modern people resist this system. This approach requires patience, which modern culture resists. It offers no instant transformation, no dramatic breakthrough. Instead, it promises gradual, structural change. This is precisely why it works. Most people would rather feel productive than become focused. They would rather consume inspiration than train attention. Patanjali's system offers something more demanding and more enduring, the reconditioning of the mind itself. The irony is that once this training takes root, discipline becomes easier than chaos. Focus becomes restful. Effort becomes meaningful. The mind stops resisting its own intentions. The end of self-sabotage. At its core, Patanjali's 8-step system addresses self-sabotage. When the mind is untrained, it seeks novelty, avoids discomfort, and fragments attention. When trained, it becomes steady, responsive, and capable of sustained effort. This is why Patanjali opens the Yoga Sutras with a simple definition. Yoga is the cessation of mental fluctuations. Discipline is not about domination. It is about quieting unnecessary movement so that intention can express itself clearly. When chaos ends, discipline no longer needs to be enforced. It becomes the natural state of an ordered mind. Conclusion: from chaos to focus. Patanjali did not design this system for monks alone. He designed it for anyone seeking clarity in a complex world. In an age of distraction, his insights are more relevant than ever. If your mind does not obey you, it is not broken, it is untrained. And training does not require force, guilt, or endless motivation. It requires structure, patience, and understanding. Discipline is not something you impose on yourself. It is something you build, layer by layer, until chaos gives way to focus, and focus gives way to freedom.